While we wait for the SCOTUS to take action on Donald Trump's immunity claims or ballot access claims, the right is lining up to give him a little bit of help. Stupid help, but help. And it comes in this form. Dozens of House Republicans have declared in a new resolution that Trump's January 6 actions were not insurrection. So they have said, according to us, a whole bunch of chuckleheads and aspiring podcast hosts, it wasn't an insurrection. And many of you are probably thinking, well, what does that mean? What is that intended to accomplish? It is confusing. Journalists were wondering the same thing, and they asked Matt Gaetz, this is his effort, to explain himself.
Is there like a practical sort of implication if this passes? Would this help Trump legally in court, or is this just a symbolic measure?
No, I think that it would be incredibly helpful legally if we were to adopt this provision. You know, I've been the victim of federal crimes. I know what it's like when prosecutors regularly consult the victim to understand what the victim's expectations are. If we're the purported victim in Congress and we're saying this was not an insurrection, I think that would hold a great deal of weight.
So Matt Gaetz is saying that the victims in a crime are often given a position where the jury or the judge cares about them and what they think about a topic. And so what he's attempting to say here, and it is so dishonest, is that if it was an insurrection and if it was a threat to Congress, well, then aren't we the victims? Me, Matt Gaetz, aren't I the victim? And we're saying that it wasn't an insurrection. So that's something that a judge or a jury should take into account. Now, I want to be very clear about this. They theoretically were the victims, probably not Matt Gaetz. I think that if the insurrectionists came across him in the hallway, they would have been just fine with that. But he is, of course, pretending not to understand that if they had come across some of his Democratic colleagues, particularly ones that are demonized by the right-wing media, they likely would have been brutalized, sexually assaulted, or perhaps murdered. He knows that, but is pretending not to understand that to benefit Donald Trump. That is sociopathic. Just bear that in mind. But thankfully, in this case, the entire plan is stupid. The jury and the judge are not going to care about some nakedly partisan resolution that some Republicans passed. They don't care about that at all. But what is very clear coming out of this is that, we're more than 3 years now from January 6th, and there was periods, especially early on, where some in the right had to pretend to have an issue with what happened on January 6th. But we are so far past that. They don't even have to pretend anymore, and they can just line up behind Donald Trump. Sharon, what do you think?
And what he's talking about is akin to not understanding even the legal system, okay? He doesn't even understand the legal system because yes, supposedly Congress would be the victims, and indeed they were rummaging through Nancy Pelosi's mail, defecating, urinating, the like, stealing things. But this is a crime, purportedly, I think we saw it, against the United States of America, okay? If Matt Gaetz wants to offer mitigating circumstances and, once Donald Trump is convicted or something, offer up that he thinks he's a great guy who was just doing a tour, that's fine. Nancy Pelosi can give her victim impact statement, so can others. But it's just, this is a show about nothing, okay? You mentioned Seinfeld. They're doing a show about nothing. And the congresswoman from New York is just a pathetic shell of her former self who used to kind of sort of work with other people, whether we agree with her or not. And now you're joining with perfect hair guy and putting out this nonsense. We all saw what it was, okay? The guy he was wearing that rug and the hat, the furry hat, and they were doing a lot of damage and threatening people, okay? 100%. I think Mike Pence should give an impact statement too.
Yeah. By the way, the QAnon shaman who you're referencing there is actually going to show up on the show a little bit later on. So
oh my goodness.
That's weird. But yeah, it was an insurrection. That's what it was. And their approach to this was that wrong? Because I have to tell you, if I knew that was against the rules, I never would have done it. To again reference Seinfeld there. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.